Welcome, everybody. That talk will be about acts of leadership, and I will start where everything started, so with the open door. The conversation within the organization was pretty tough, pretty long. We are Agile, right? We are Agile organization. We're embracing Agile thinking ways of working. We must not have any doors, right? We want our employees, our workers, to be absolutely free in coming to our offices. That particular office, it was a couple of years ago, was a semi-open space. So teams were in the open space, while managers have their own offices. So Michael was the director of IT, and he had an idea to leave the door open always, non-stop. There was a conversation, maybe we should remove door completely, because if there is open door, you can always shut it, right? However, in that particular case, his office was next to the corridor. It was pretty loud during the lunchtime, so let it be. Doors are open. So I visited Michael. We were not yet cooperating. I was just invited for the first meeting. He had a proposal, and we were interrupted. We were interrupted because at some point of our meeting, delegation, I'd say 3 or 4 developers from a team arrived at the door that were opened. Still, they knocked and they asked, "Hey, Michael, we have a question. It's a tough topic, actually. Could you spare a moment with us?" Michael said, yeah, absolutely. So the deal was, for many, many weeks, that team, together with another team, discussed whether they should implement solution A or B. Actually, it wasn't a product solution, it was a technical solution. So should we use technology more of A or B? And Michael, as a director of IT, one of the most senior, top 3 senior members of executive team in this side of the company, he used to be also a developer, a programmer. And I think this is quite common. You start as a programmer, senior programmer, team lead. Eventually, he became a director. So, in the code developed by that team, there were still bugs introduced by Michael 15 years ago or so. So they wanted to consult with him. So they said, we did have a lot of conversation. We are at the edge. A or B, Michael, help. Michael looked at me. I know what's going on. That was his thinking. And he replied in the following way. Guys, I will not tell you what to do. Yeah, we are Agile organization. You are the developers. You are accountable for all technical solutions. Please make up your mind. The meeting is over. If I were you, I would go with A. That was the final sentence. So that was really, really intriguing because he was very proud when I look at him, demonstrating true Agile leadership. He didn't tell them what to do, but guess which solution they picked, A or B? A, obviously, because at the end of that meeting, he just suggested, well, if I were you, perhaps A would be better. He didn't tell them what to do, right? He wanted actually to share some of his experience. We're going to take a pause over here. So we will come back to Michael slightly later. But that was one of the few conversations during my career that I had with pretty senior leaders when they were absolutely proud of demonstrating pure leadership, while in fact what they did didn't help. Definitely didn't help the team grow, didn't help the team self-organize, self-manage, or be accountable for technology. So my name is Paweł Feliński. Some of you know me from some training sessions or previous conferences. I'm based here in Poland, in Warsaw, but for the last 5 or 6 years, I was mainly operating in the United Kingdom. I'm director at a consulting company, Mayrick, and that's very interesting because for 10 years or so, I visited a company from different industries: healthcare, oil and gas, no IT department in oil and gas. Oil and gas, really, healthcare, insurance, and others, completely different industries, different people. And there was something interesting about each of my customers. Each company thinks they are specific. They are, yeah. But the problems they have, in my opinion, are very common. no matter which industry, which size of the company we're talking about. And if so, well, that means that solutions we propose could be actually very, very similar. So during my presentation, I can't promise, I'll try not to mention any models, because theory about practice is not my stance at all. All models are wrong, sometimes very useful. Instead of that, I'd like to share a few hints from my practice that maybe help us understand what the acts of leadership are, because that's the odd title of the presentation I've just realized. Do you have your mobile phones? That's awesome. I have also one over here. I was so excited to see that during this conference, there are a lot of presentations that actually are digitalized. We use digital ways of working. So there will be a few moments during my talk where I'd like to interact. That's menti.com if you scan the QR code, or go to the website menti.com and place the number, we enter the code that you can see over here. There will be few questions, few moments for interactions with me for you. That's the first one. I'd like to learn who's here. So the question is, what's your role? Before you answer the question, I'm absolutely sure you are in multiple roles, at least some of you. So which is the role you identify most currently, right now? If you are not a product owner, but a product manager, fine, click the product owner, please. If you're not an Agile coach, but enterprise Agile coach, please click the Agile coach. If you're a developer, engineer, user experience designer, researcher, business analyst, that's a developer in my case. If you're really far away, like HR, for instance, other would do. I'm going to give you a moment because I'm really curious what the results are. We have plenty of Scrum Masters and Agile coaches here. Good, it's an Agile conference. We have a bunch of line managers. It's interesting, but given the theme of this year's conference, that seems legit. Looking at developers, just 9 of them, 10, fine. Other, it's 1, 11. So I would say the majority are either Agile roles or management roles. Seems legit. That's just for me. What is for you, however, is the second question. So I'm going to change the slide in a second, if you're still clicking the answer. I'd like to check, do you identify yourself as a leader, not a manager, a leader? If yes, select yes. If no, select no. And I'm going to give you a while. Currently, we have more developers than leaders, right? No, 5 people said I'm not a leader, while 10 people said they are developers during the previous questions. That's interesting. So many people claim you're leaders. That's great. Let me please continue. So apparently there's something about leadership that is independent from the role you represent over here. That's interesting. Let's come back to the very beginning of management. But let's talk about where the management come from. Like quite often during training sessions, I believe are asked the question, so what's the difference between management and leadership? I have a slide about it later, but quite rarely I hear people understanding where the management comes from. Did we have managers in the Middle Ages? It's an academic conversation. I wouldn't like to have it over here. I would say not necessary. It's the end of the 19th centuries where proper management appeared. The word management appeared when we started to talk about different practices within the management. And originally, the case was as follows. You have a team of people with different value systems internally, different goals, personal goals, different emotional stability, different personalities, and so on. And you, the manager, are accountable to help them work together. And not only work together, achieve something together. That was originally the role of a manager. So in the world, in a team, in an organization, a unit, organizational unit, where we have people from completely different planets, even if similar, manager is the one that actually helps them achieve something together. Management, as such, my definition would be slightly different to what you perhaps expect. Managing, depending on the book that you open, I think the most generic definition is to set direction and track progress towards it. And it's hilarious, especially at Agile conferences, no hard feelings, please, when I meet people saying, especially young Scrum Masters, oh, we are Agile, we don't need any managers. We don't need any managers. Management is bad. No, it's like the root of a company. Somebody needs to set the direction for the organization and track progress towards it. If you're a project manager, you would do this for a project. If you're a product manager, this for a product, service manager, line manager, executive doing it for the entire organization. That's what's behind managing in my opinion. Bless you. Now, coming back to Michael. Michael was definitely a manager, IT director, one of senior executives in the site, no-brainer, a manager, setting the directions of his organization, also measuring, tracking the progress towards it. So when I spoke with Michael, when the team left, the conversation was about a tiny engagement he wanted me to be a part of. He had a problem with Scrum Masters. So his organization, RT organization, was roughly 12 teams, more or less 150 people. Each of the 12 teams used Scrum. And of course, because Michael was very well educated, agile manager, each team had a Scrum Master. And it was so fun. It was so fun for the first month, for the second month, for the third month. At the beginning of the fourth month, Michael was a bit upset that the organization is not, they don't deliver much, I would say so. But hey, we're agile, we are organizing, forming, right? Before high performing, forming, storming, norming, we need some time. Michael was one of the senior executives of the site, but he was not senior executive of the entire company. So after half a year, his stakeholders arrived and said, you have to deliver. That's absolutely rubbish what you are doing right now. We need results. We want to see results. And the root cause, according to Michael, was that Scrum Masters he hired, I met them later, not as Scrum Masters, I would say, on the market. But it was many years ago in Poland, so we didn't have a lot of agile experts in our country at all. So the problem was they didn't demonstrate enough leadership, according to Michael. So what he did what he could do as a manager. He installed team leads into the teams. So now in a Scrum team, among developers, one of the developers was a team lead. Interesting position, because a team lead was not a manager. Nobody reported to the team lead, but team lead was the one giving the destination, setting the goal for the team, for the unit. And the engagement I was involved in was just to collect all these Scrum Master and help them grow. That's what I did. 2 months later, there was another problem, bigger problem. After 2 months of coaching cooperation, Scrum Masters grew up in the maturity, also in the way they interact with the teams. And now they started to become true leaders. But on the other side, in the same teams, we had team leads. I'm not sure if leaders, but definitely the kind of managerial role. Can we have 2 managers in one team? Well, yeah, we can, definitely. That was the case, but we shouldn't. Because of a lot of conflict. And it was a very dramatic situation. I became expert in conflict facilitation these days. I was also a young agile coach. In many teams, I would say 8 out of 12, they made a deal. So a Scrum Master with a team lead agreed who will be accountable for what. In other 4 teams, there was a big personal conflict. Few people needed to leave the company. That was quite tragic. were these Scrum Masters and team leads leaders, or did they use more like a manager's lens while working with the teams? That would be an interesting question. I think the latter definitely. So we talked about management, what management is according to me. Let's go back to the future. So let's discuss what about leaders? What about leaders, right? Um, that's a picture I found online. It's nothing that I've created. And I think that should resonate with few presentations we had yesterday over here and today over here. I don't know why, but quite often when we say it's this, there's a manager and the leader, two different edges of a scale, we tend to use different metaphors from military. Like a manager is the one who just says charge, but stays away from the fight, right? You need to listen to your manager because he's your boss, right? But a leader is the one who says charge, but goes with you. He's the first one attacking with our troops. I don't like this dichotomy. I think it's simply false for a few reasons. We can't compare management and leadership because management typically is a position given to you. Leadership is the way how you behave, how you act. So it's nothing granted. Secondly, I can imagine completely different story. Those who are from Poland definitely recognize the footage from 1410, the Battle of Grunwald and Król Władysław, the King Władysław Jagiełło. That's the picture taken a few centuries ago during the battle. And we all know from school, from various books, that he was smarter than the other guy, the bad guy, right? He was smarter because instead of engaging in the battle, he was actually up there at the hill observing the entire battlefield. So technically, he was here. But everybody knows he was a true leader, right? So that dichotomy doesn't work for me. That's what I wanted to say. All right. So what is a leader? In my opinion, leadership is about caring. It's activity, definitely, set of behaviors, perhaps embedded values behind it, but help you care about your team, about your project, about your systems. A little bit more than proactiveness. Let me try to explain it. Some time ago, I couldn't find the article. It was 10 years ago or so. I read somewhere in a newspaper here in Poland that a hospital somewhere, don't know where, needed to pay 1 million Polish zloty extra, more, for water usage because there was a tap leaking or a toilet leaking, I can't remember. So for a year, every day there was a drop by drop of the water. And I bet everybody saw it, nurses, doctors, patients, nobody cared. To fix it is something really tiny, but nobody cared for a year. And the bill for water from water supplies that arise was tremendous, was really big. So an act of leadership could be that somebody would do something about it. And I'm not saying a nurse or a doctor should fix it, but maybe inform somebody, a director of the hospital, hey, there's a leakage, we could do something about it. That's quite important. The leadership is the courage to care. And I'm not saying about that leader means to lead big initiatives. Acts of leadership could be something very small. And we're coming back to this topic in a moment. Still about the management. The typical organizational structure is a ladder or a triangle. In my model, with all respect, there are three management layers, starting from the top management or executives, middle management, and line management, so frontline workers, managers. And management is about, among others, about planning, about making decisions. Of course, strategic decisions, strategic planning, that belongs to top management. Tactical one, that's middle management. Operational planning, that's line management. And execution of the plans, eventually workers, right? The problem is, it's a fancy model. The reality looks like that quite often. So the ladder is longer. We have team members, team leads, supervisors, managers, directors, senior directors, vice presidents, senior vice presidents, maybe a few more steps, and then the board of members. And I heard during one of discussions that we had in the corridor that agile organizations prefer flat structures, right? And I disagree. I think it's a side effect of many agile transformation that if you have too many layers in here, management layers, perhaps we need to remove few of them, but it shouldn't be the goal. I know a few really agile organizations that actually have a pretty similar ladder to the one that you see over here. Of course, there are organizations that have a lot of problems. I remember a Polish public sector organization. There was a director with 2 people reporting to him only. His assistant, wife, by the way, and his senior manager. And the senior manager has only 2 people reporting to him. His assistant, not a wife, and manager, senior manager and the manager below. And the manager had a team. So he had a team, many single person layers of management, and then the senior leadership team. Of course, that's another extreme edge case, something we would get rid of during any transformation or organizational change project. But Agile as such doesn't tell us that we need to squeeze it or we need to flatten it at all. What Agile could actually teach us is that no matter where you are within the structures, we could or even should have leaders everywhere. And that might be something not so quick to grasp, because quite often we see, okay, this should self-organize. This should give us vision, and these ones have no clue what to do with them. Many agile transformation, they leave middle management completely not recognized. There's no offer. If you go to training sessions, agile training sessions, we have plenty for teams, scrum masters, and that's it. Maybe for line managers, product owners, product managers, but for directors, for executives, nothing really present on the market. That's a big surprise. So instead of thinking we have self-organized teams and we don't know what to do over here, my proposal is to slightly change the way of thinking. We need leadership, not necessarily leaders, installed everywhere, no matter where you are within the organizational structures. So, just to finish the topic of leadership, I thought let's use the wisdom of the crowd. What builds a great leader? Not a manager, forget about manager, but a great leader. I need few responses from you. I'll give you a minute for that. Same link should work. I'm quite surprised why protein and trust are sideways. Oh no, they move back. Fair enough. I'm absolutely not sure if size matters here is the first time I'm using this tool. But as you can see, there's a lot about courage, trust, empathy, vision, openness, proteins, obviously. But I just wonder, are there any competencies, skills, knowledge over here? Not really. And I'm not surprised, because as such, I believe management relies a lot on knowledge, skills, perhaps different models. Management is the practice you can learn. Leadership is how you act, how you behave. So actually different traits, different characteristic traits is what I would observe over here. So I'm quite proud. 84 responses. Let's call it a day. Thank you very much for that. I hope it will be somewhere available later. 85 responses. Cool. All right, let's move on. There's one tiny missing puzzle I wanted to mention. We talked about managers and leaders, but this is an Agile conference at the end of the day. So I wonder, have you heard about Agile leaders? Well, I did during this conference today, and I always wonder, what is an agile leader? What is agile about leader? Are you fast? Are you flexible? Because that's what agile means. In my opinion, whenever we say agile leader, we mean something slightly different, and I prefer actually the different way of, a longer way of expressing the same. Leader in an agile organization, no matter if your organization is agile or not, being a leader is independent from the processes you use, from the ways of working. Agile leader for me is a leader in an agile organization that perhaps emphasizes the fact you need to look at some areas of your organization in a different way, but not necessarily that you need to change dramatically how you behave. Now, the great question would be, what is an agile organization now? Have you seen any agile organization recently? Not really. Again, something I'm really surprised about. Quite often when I work with my customers, it's very bipolar. Oh, we are agile or we are not agile completely. While I wanted to say that agile is like autism. It's a spectrum. It's a spectrum. It's not a binary state. So you are either not agile at all, you're super agile organization, but there's a lot actually on the way. And few organizations produce different agile maturity models. I think the biggest one, the largest one, most comprehensive one would be Kanban maturity model by Kanban University, which despite the name is not a model of maturity of Kanban, but maturity of your organization using Kanban or agile ways of working in general. For me, it's a very essential, and I quite often talk about it with my customers because Agile is a tool or set of tools. Scrum would be a tool like a hammer. Hammer is good if you want to hit a nail. Would you wash a window, clean a window with a hammer? Well, you can. Technically, you can, but it wouldn't be the first tool of choice in my case. Quite often, organizations that started their journey from no agile, they think this is our goal. We want to be the best agile company ever, and I think it's misleading. You should be as agile as it's okay for you. Somebody smart, hopefully executive said, we want to use agile ways of working because we believe they will help us achieve our business goals faster, cheaper, or at all. And that's why we're investing in agile. And if this is enough for us, our goals are achieved in such a way that we planned, fine, we don't have to be better and better and better in agility. That shouldn't be ultimate goal of any agile transformation. The goal is to transform the business with agile, not to run agile transformation as such. Why I'm bringing it up, because there's a lot about what leaders can do when they look through the lens of maturity of organization. First of all, no-brainer, people's competency grow. You have no clue what Agile is. Now we are after training for Scrum Masters or about Scrum. We know what Scrum is. We grow, we learn more how to run retrospectives, how to run big room plannings, whatever techniques you prefer. That's one thing, and very obvious. But what is more important, in my opinion, is not individual people competency, but capability of the entire organization. It should grow as well. And the role of a leader is to help the organization grow, perhaps focusing on individuals, perhaps focusing on broader areas of the organization, depending on what is your position as a manager, not as a leader. So I guess you already heard that agile leaders should manage the environment. Quite often at different conferences, I hear you need to focus on managing the container. So the organization is a black box. You're not entering the box. You're not micromanaging your team or your organization. You manage the environment by setting boundaries. Self-organization as such is not a chaos, shouldn't be the chaos. It's do whatever you want, but within some limitations. And setting the limitations is what managers do, in my opinion, not leaders. So managing the container would be the one piece of advice I hear. And it's quite hard to tell as a leader how I can support it. As a manager, definitely by telling, okay, do whatever you want, but there has to be Scrum. And the team has to be cross-functional, or we need to release, go live every month, not more frequently, not less frequently, because that's what we demand. Do whatever you want, but we are using Java because we are a Java company. I don't want my self-organized team to switch to C# because that's not the story of our company, sorry. These are the kinds of boundaries. Definition of done from Scrum could be an organizational level quality standard. Why not? The entire governance in Agile organizations would also belong to that space. Another advice I hear quite often at conferences is, as a leader, you need to help people do the right thing. And I have no clue what's the right thing, because depending on who I ask, they think something else is right to do. It's very context specific, perhaps specific to a person. So if I were to sum up altogether what I learned with my customers, that would be all. First of all, I'm repeating myself right now, leadership is an activity, all right? Activity means is nothing that was given to you with your position. That would suggest that you don't have to be a manager or a team lead to be a leader. Anybody can be a leader because it's an activity, it's what you do, how you behave. Tempting, but not yet perhaps fully clear. So my second takeaway would be everybody can act as a leader. The title of my presentation, Acts of Leadership, was inspired, stolen a bit by the Kanban method, as described by the Kanban University. The method consists of several practices, 6 principles, including 3 change management principles, and one of them is encourage acts of leadership at all levels. And I thought that's so sound, so good, but what does it mean, encourage acts of leadership at all levels? It means, if we realize that, anybody can act as a leader, and no matter if you are a manager or a leader in your organization or not, you need to encourage everybody, no matter of your position, to care, to do something proactively in order to change the local environment of your team. I wouldn't expect a Scrum Master working with a team to change the entire organization. You have a different point of view, you have a different area of focus. What is quite important, and that resonated with majority of my customers, is that when you are a leader, when I work with leaders, I help them grow their people one level at a time. So no matter which, or if none, also it also applies, what maturity model you would say, no Agile, full Agile. I don't want my people to grow from here directly here. From here would be enough. But one step further, one step further, one step further. Coming back to Michael and his cooperation with the team. He wanted to demonstrate good Agile leadership skill of not telling people what to do, refraining from micromanagement. That team cooperated already for half a year, more or less. And there were smart engineers, and if they decided after many, many conversations to come to him and ask the question, I believe that was something important. That was something bold. And if you have a team that is perhaps not yet fully mature in whatever, agility, engineering practice, and so on, if you tell them, well, I will not tell you what to do, you will leave them confused. You're not helping them grow. So between micromanaging, do this, choose option 1, choose option A, and full mentoring or coaching, empowering stance, do whatever you want, there is a spectrum of various activities as a leader that you can take. For instance, suggesting or asking them, or questioning, powerful question, coaching questions, trying to help them or navigate them through the process of thinking. Maybe there were some gaps. Maybe they already knew which answer is better, A or B, but they emotionally felt fear of making a decision. They didn't feel empowered enough. Maybe that was the case. So you always need to dig a little bit deeper. Finally, leading by example, also something I heard, and I was very proud of, very happy of that during this conference. But whenever I talk to my customers and tell them you need to lead by example, they say, yeah, but what do you mean? I mean, I have a manager here, And I don't want him to lead by example. It's a very bad example. I don't want him, because depending on the person, different example would be set. So of course, it's very context specific or person specific. During any organizational change, I think Mr. Kotter said that roughly 20 to 50% of staff leaves the company, either because they don't feel right in the new ways of working, or because they don't want to change, and they are asked to leave, and that's okay. Because reinventing business sometimes means changing a lot of insight. So whenever I touch the topic of leading by example, I'm thinking of the culture of experimentation. Not because it's the most important factor of agile ways of working, but the one that is the easiest to demonstrate if you're a leader. So treat everything as an experiment, talk about it to your people, especially if they're in a management position. I did that and we failed, and that's what we learned. If your employees hear it from time to time from you, manager, director, CEO of a company, we tried that, we ran that initiative and we failed, and that's what we learned, and these are the conclusions we drew, and this is what we're gonna do about it. That's a very bold message, way better than just telling people, oh, you need to learn fast or fail fast. It's a very nice mantra, but nothing really helpful. Running experiments, embedding the culture of experimentation yourself, that's something that I'd like to promote over here. Of course, despite other topics, one of the most successful organizations, agile transformations in organizations that I observed, were the organizations where the SLT, senior leadership team, also, and quite at the beginning of the transformation, embraced agile ways of working. A team I worked with a few years ago, a bunch of 12 different executives, they decided to have a Kanban board. And on the Kanban board, obviously, we didn't have tiny cards of tasks. Each card was a big initiative, half a year, 2 years long even. And that big board, it was pre-pandemic times, was in the corridor. Everybody could see it, and they have Kanban meeting, 50 minutes next to the board, every week, not every day, but that was absolutely enough because there was not a lot of movement on the board. Initiatives were long, the lead times were many months, not few days. But it was a very bold message to the entire organizations, guys, they are doing it, so you should as well. And the last point in my presentation is perhaps controversial, perhaps not really. Promote right behaviors, not necessary results. One of the best messages I heard from a manager that really got the point how to grow his team was, "Well done, John. Please don't do it again." Not this way, not like that. This particular situation was John was like a kind of hero in the team. So what if there's any big task, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna save the team, which from the perspective of results was absolutely fine. From his personal perspective, I don't know, but the team didn't work to overcome issues together. For instance, it was him against the team or him not a part of the team. So well done, John, but please don't do it again. Promoting right behaviors, talking about them by sending kudos, for instance, that would be something that I would include into the big set of what I name the acts of leadership. All right, to sum up, 5 hints that are not a model, obviously, but something that I collected during the last couple of years working with different leaders. Remember, it's an activity, so anybody could be a leader. Well, maybe a caveat. Not everybody can be a leader, because I think there is something about this picture. Remember the let's go and the boss charge, the one before King Władysław Jagiełło. There's something about leader, because the few authors of very famous books says to be called a leader, you need to be recognized as a leader by people. So it's not that I'm a leader. Many organizations, they change the labels from manager to leader. No project managers, we have project leaders right now. No, they're still managers. But if people recognize you as a real leader, so to be a leader, perhaps you need to be recognized as a leader, but to act as a leader, You don't have to. It's about proactive care and courage to actually solve problems or engage in any conversations. Help your people grow, but remember, one level at a time. We don't want to be we don't want to aim well, we should aim perhaps higher than we want to where we want to be. However, we actually should help our organization evolve, because evolutionary change stays for longer. And the revolution perhaps give you faster results, but it's very disruptive for many organizations. Leading by example, by building the culture of experimentation, experimenting yourself and talking about it, and finally promoting right behaviors instead of or on top of promoting results. From my side, that would be all. If you want to keep in touch, please keep in touch. That's the QR code to my LinkedIn profile. And I think we have a few moments for Q&A.